Hey, welcome to the Mountain Psych Podcast.
Mountain Psych.
Mountain Psych.
Mountain
Psych.
Psych.
Mountain Psych.
Mountain
Mountain
Psych.
Psych, man. Mountain Psych. Hey, it's
The
Mountain
Mountain
Psych.
Psych.
Mountain Psych.
Conversations from the
Conversations.
mountains. Jason,
Yes.
welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Captain Barbecue.
Captain Barbecue. I have been called a lot of different barbecue names lately. You know, I've been throwing the most out is Santiago.
Oh,
Check
yeah.
out this tin you got for me right here. Andrew Yard, the meat master.
The meat master. That's very appropriate.
Yeah.
I believe
Dude, I've been talking to you about this and wanted you to bring you on because I think you're probably one of the most interesting people in this town.
that. Well, I think that's an overstatement, but thank you.
This town
for
is
the flattery.
not as interesting as you might think. But
I love this town.
well, you know what I mean.
Yes,
It's full of people that I'd like. You know, you're one of the people I'd like to talk to. I
I
like
appreciate
talking
that.
to when I'm out in public, and I like having.
I like talking to you, too.
Yeah. And that means a lot to me because I don't really go out of my way to talk to too many people when I'm in town anymore.
I understand that.
Like I feel like it
100%.
used to be like you just glad hand everybody. I'm like, yeah, I'm the barbecue guy. And I'm
Right.
just like if I don't know you, I'm just
I
like,
know,
I'd
right?
just I'd rather not.
I know. I have one of our friends, my wife and I's friends from back in Kentucky. He was an much older guy, and he's humans, and I used to be like, is this guy just bitter? And now I'm just like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
it. It's been several years. It's been like 10 years now. And I'm like, yeah, I get it.
I
Sometimes humans suck, but
yeah, particularly that's the point. It's like if you can just catch them all at the right moment, it's like
Right.
that would be perfect. It's
That's
like
true.
we can have a lot better of a time, a lot better conversation, and be way more interesting.
Uh-huh.
Instead, I'm just like I catch everyone at the exact same pinnacle of their day
Right.
at the bar,
Yeah.
4 drinks in. Hey man, how's business? And it's always the same conversation. I'm not saying that I don't have those good conversations, but
Yeah.
the ones where I don't really know the people, and it's just like it's kind of repetitive
Yeah.
sometimes.
And,
I just,
I've-
catch myself.
I feel like I sometimes end up as the opposite end of what you're just talking about, is the guy who's just kind of like giving you a generic answer. Back when, I was working like freaking 60, 70 hours a week, now I've got like some support staff under me at my work, and I've hired some management underneath me, and I have, a more regular schedule. And so I feel like, when people do approach me on the street, I feel like I don't want to push them away as much as I used to want
Right.
to, when I was just exhausted, from the
I feel
day. And that's kind of being in a customer service kind of spot is something that we talk about on the regular is, not making assumptions about how people are when they come in. They might have a bad
Right.
attitude, they've had a bad day and they're kind of taking it out on us.
Yeah.
And, I always tell my staff, look, don't take it so personally. It's like whatever just happened on their way in, and they're just kind of taking it out on you. And sometimes people don't realize the weight of the daily shit
Right.
and how they carry that throughout the rest of the day when they're done with work or whatever.
Even
it
like
is.
daily stuff, like 4 days of it. I was just thinking, brought that up about like how my anxiety. I used to have really bad anxiety, and I realized that I couldn't hold conversations at work
Yeah.
because I didn't want to.
Sometimes you just don't want to. And it's not a matter of I don't want to talk to you. It's I just don't want to talk.
Right.
And,
I got called
and I
out
think
once by a guest.
Sometimes people take that personally, and
Right.
and fair enough. I get it. I understand.
Right.
I would probably take that personally too if I was on the other end
Yeah,
of it.
and I think I came off kind of wrong too about the beginning there. I don't go out of my way as much as I used to,
Yeah,
like just to talk to everybody. I used to like go around and like
I really don't
greet.
either.
I used to be like, hey, how's it going? And then
Right,
go to the
right.
next person. And then I used to because I thought that's what the thing to do was. was to exit the room and say goodbye to everybody. I don't even. Do
Oh
that
man,
anymore.
I love ghosting. That's my favorite
Yeah,
thing.
I'm just like I just disappear.
I'll
like
just
I'm paid
disappear.
out. If you're not around
the
or if you're
best.
in the other room, I'm gone. Like I'm not looking for you.
I was always that guy at the party.
no
Like I
one's
never
looking for
felt
me,
like
so.
saying goodbye and just, dude, I'm done. I'm out. See you guys. You know.
All right. So
Anyways.
back to customer service. Like, what are you doing now?
So what I'm doing now, so I'm the general manager of the Agati dispensary down the road, or actually just right over here.
All right.
And I was Agati, for some of those that have been around for a while, they bought out the Kind Mine. I was with the Kind Mine. I've basically been working in that building since January of 2012. And I became a manager pretty quickly, kind of by default of the previous ownership being in a drunken stupor and fired literally everybody one day, including myself. And I came back in the next morning and was like, I got a 6-month-old baby at home. I kind of need this job. And I was the only one that came back. So I became the manager at that point.
Nice.
It was like 5 months into
I do remember the stupor.
Yes.
I don't remember. Like, I remember him just disappearing.
Yeah.
We won't have to. We won't
we
say
don't
his
have to
name.
get-
but, yeah. It was really intense knowing him. I was just like 1 minute. And
It was a roller coaster, that's
it
for
was
sure.
definitely a roller coaster. He was
I learned a lot. I learned a
obliterated.
lot throughout that time period. But so yeah, I'm the general manager over there. I do have, since we were a medical facility before 2014, and when the recreational stuff went through, we were one of the 8 dispensaries that were able to open on January 1st, 2014,
Right.
and that was quite a fiasco. We had a 4.5-hour wait the entire day.
You guys are like a Starbucks right there.
Oh, it was insane. It was insane. But yeah, so I'm general manager over there, and it's I've got a couple managers underneath me that pretty much take care of the day-to-day operations, and I just kind of handle the bird's eye view, damage control. Customers get upset about things like that, deal with staff
What
issues, and
kind of upset customers do you get buying weed?
It's funny
Like
you say
this
that.
weed
'cause
isn't the same.
What I really want to say is, dude, you're in a fucking weed store. What are you fucking upset about?
You should
Go to
just be
Kansas and
happy.
try to do this, dude.
This is not a coffee or a burnt sandwich.
Yeah, but prices, but I can get it cheaper in Denver. I'm like, yeah, but you just drove up here. What are you gonna do? Drive back to fucking Denver? No, you're not. So you're gonna buy this fucking weed. I mean, come on. It's
Like
just,
you can get it back in Denver.
yeah, and
Thank you.
And granted, there's sometimes people get upset about very legitimate reasons about we get a lot of products that we order from other vendors, and sometimes there might be an issue with the packaging. Like for example, we'll buy 1,000 joints from a company, a couple of tubes might be empty. We try to
fair enough.
we usually try to be pretty diligent about checking that stuff. But when you're dealing with about 200 customers in a 200 square
Right?
foot
You're
sales floor,
slinging weed out.
it gets pretty crazy in
Yeah.
there sometimes, and it's a pretty
like
small facility.
You don't think people scooping ice cream could fuck up scooping ice cream? I'm
But
pretty
you
sure
could probably fuck it up
Some
pretty
people
good.
serving weed could fuck it up somehow.
Oh, absolutely,
Like,
absolutely.
Seemed like an easy
it's
enough
just-
job till you get your ass kicked.
It's like oh yeah, it sounds great. You're selling weed, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's a retail job.
Yeah,
let's
it's
face
exactly.
it. You know what I mean?
And people are going to have complaints, and they're going to be
Yeah, and I'm a manager of
dismissive
a
of you
retail
and-
facility, and we deal with customers, and I will say, I mean, comparatively to restaurants, I would say we probably have a much easier situation with customers overall.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But most of our customers have great attitudes.
Right, right.
And what's in my
We're in the same business, man.
personally, I mean, for me, it's like, oh, I send people to your.
No, I'm just
I send
saying-
people to smoking yards all
I'm
the time.
just saying, great attitude.
It is.
It's like we have a 95% like Yelp and Trip and everything.
That's
at
pretty
the
awesome.
Smoking yard. So
I
we rarely get shit, and when we get shit, it's like hard shit. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, I'm so sorry. Like we fucked up, or it's like we fucked up. Or you just having one of those those customers, and you're like, damn, I don't think
sometimes
I can
people
do,
just
I
have
just
bad
can't do
days,
anything
and
for you.
and sometimes the bad experience they had at your retail establishment or restaurant might have just been the last straw for the day,
Right.
and that happens. But what's, in my opinion, and I've been there for 7 years now, 7.5 years. What's really cool though is still to this day, every single day, we have multiple customers that are like, wow, I've never been to one of these. This is amazing.
Right.
You know, and I can't share that. Like I can share that feeling with them, but I don't know what that feels like. And that's something that like
I know
love.
what that feels like.
I don't know what that
It's
feels
like Willy Wonka.
Because I mean,
Like that wonderment.
I started. I mean, I had my medical marijuana license when I first moved here in 2011, and you know, I was shopping at real tiny. I mean, where it was like you had like 2 things to choose from, and I basically watched it progress from that point.
Oh, shit.
So I don't have that experience of knowing what it's like to walk into a place like what we have right now, where it's just like a wall full of shit, like that's all infused with marijuana, and you're just like. And there are literally some customers that come in where I'm like, I'll give you a minute.
Right.
To soak it in.
No,
you know, because
that's
just
how
like,
I am in there. I can't.
They're dumbfounded.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to be able to share that experience with people because I don't know what that really feels like myself. It's kind of like, I've been a musician for fucking almost 30 years, and I don't know what it's like to go to a concert and not analyze shit. You know what I mean?
That's too bad.
And I'm sure you can't go to a fucking other barbecue joint without analyzing it.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
I can rarely go to another restaurant. I gotta turn my back to people. I have to be in a booth.
Yeah.
You know how people they're like situational awareness.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to be in a restaurant because I don't want to think about what other people are doing. Like I don't like I
Exactly.
don't mind being there
Exactly.
as long as I'm facing everyone, but I can't be the one facing out.
And that's the thing.
In
And
a
it's
busy
like,
place.
and it's so funny because, and it's gotten a lot better over the years, but so many times, I'll get off of work after, 10, 12 hours of dealing, marijuana industry shit, and people want to talk marijuana with me after work. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Let's talk about anything but marijuana. Right.
Well, that comes back to like just kind of nodding your head and like this is what we're talking about.
Exactly. So, and it's
the barbecue conversation. Oh, you smell like campfire. That is not like it's literally the oldest like conversation starter. Like,
yeah.
That as
now, if they start asking you questions like, what actually happens to the skin of the meat when you fucking sit it on heat for, like if they start asking about the science behind it, now that becomes an interesting conversation, like,
right.
And granted, there are some times where it just takes a certain approach from the right person to really open you up. Even when you're in that bad mood and you don't want to talk, you can still have that positive influence on your negative.
Well, yeah, there's like there's weather talking, and then there's like actual like.
They're shooting the shit.
Yeah, shooting the shit, and then there's like real conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid when I don't like I said I don't. It's not that I'm downing anyone in town. It's just sometimes people don't know me well enough to have a good conversation with me.
To understand the substance.
Yeah, so when we have our like meet and greets, it's literally like that, and it's just like it's the same thing, and you're like, man, I'm like, well, hopefully I'll get to someone, and I'm like, Jason, normal conversation, handshake, hey,
right.
like, hey,
oh man,
we won't have to talk about this.
Yeah, I remember it was when the Buffalo first did, when they reopened after their remodel. And we had Chamber of Commerce mixer, and you were there, and it was towards the end of it, and we had been talking about going over to the Moose or whatever afterwards, and I was drinking one of those double IPAs. It's like, and I was like, yeah, this sounds great. Let me slam, and it was a fresh beer, and I slammed it, and you were like, dude, that was like a 9% beer you just slammed, and I'm like. That's cool, whatever, And I'm like, I didn't even really know. I was just kind of there, just hanging out, and they were pouring me beers. I'm like, oh, this tastes great. And man, that shit hit me hard.
Right?
And I remember going over to the Moose and not lasting very long with you guys.
Right? Oh no, that's some of the crazier nights too.
Oh, that was a fun night
back then. But that's that's the one thing with beer. Segue. Beer. As they stopped doing the 9. Like it feels like they've stopped doing all the 9%.
So this one,
there's so many more.
This one's 8.3. That's like they're almost there.
Okay, you got a strong ass beer. But I feel like what I'm getting in at the restaurants, like it's all around 5. It's around 6 and 5.
And honestly,
and it's their flagship beers, and they're not very strong, and they need to be.
But here's the thing: so when you're drinking at 7,500 feet and you're a tourist, you probably don't need 9% beer.
Man, the tourists. I don't know what they're thinking.
I mean, if that's what you want, I'm not going to deny it, but
that being in the restaurant industry, you're like,
and you know what?
you're like
What's
afraid
really
for them
what blows
when
my
they're
mind?
already drunk when they walk in.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck.
Uh-huh.
And you guys aren't even from here. Oh, you're from Texas. Oh, fuck.
Right. You're from
There's
0 feet
no-
above sea
yeah.
level? Yeah, okay.
There's no way you're hydrated.
And there are literally people out there that believe that altitude sickness is not a real thing.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I'm sick. I'm like, no, you just need to drink some fucking water, bro.
Right? No,
We had a guy pass out in our lobby for like 3 hours. I'm like, check his pulse. Make sure, like.
Jeez. No, that's a legitimate.
We get a lot of
shit,
people
yeah.
that they get off the airport and they skip Denver altogether and they stop
Right.
here first. Idaho Springs. I mean, there's not much between Denver and Idaho Springs in terms of services and getting the shit that you need for your trip.
You got to consider the fact too that like tons of people don't drink enough water in general.
No.
So they
I knew a guy that literally
dehydrated.
all I've ever seen him drink is Mountain Dew.
That is disgusting.
Literally all I've ever seen this one guy, and I'm just like, wow. I'm like, okay, kidney stones. You're gonna have those very soon.
Is that what causes kidney stones?
I
thought it was
don't
like-
really know.
I thought it was like milk
I'm
or
not
something.
a fucking doctor.
And I've never had kidney stones, so no one told me
Me
to stay
neither.
away
Maybe
from
I
anything.
should knock on wood.
Yeah, there's some here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Anyways, no, I like beer a lot.
Yeah. Cheers,
And
man.
I actually
Sorry.
was hoping to. I was hoping I had time to go down to Westbound Down and grab a crowler from them so I could represent on the podcast, but I just went to the liquor store next door.
All right. I need
Mountain Moonshine.
We were talking monetization and like who we should go to for like, what shirts, like what T-shirt should I
Oh,
wear?
man.
Oh, the bee's back.
Apparel is like my arch nemesis in the retail world. It is trying to order apparel is a fucking nightmare because you got to get the right size. All the the right
never
numbers
had
of
this problem.
all the different sizes, all the right numbers, different colors, and entering the SKUs. And then when you buy shirts from different brands, it's like the XL women's is the same as the medium
Oh, yeah.
women's in another. And it's just like,
Girls brand, you got to put someone else in charge for that.
yeah, absolutely.
It's like, you need to find the shirt you guys like.
I just I
and then
got
we'll
to the
order
point where
that
I'm like,
shirt.
okay, I'm only buying unisex crap
Yeah.
because that's the
what we went
easiest.
to. Yeah. It's the same shirt, nice soft
Oh
shirt.
my lord!
Small through XXX, and then the most sizes I have
Yeah,
is large and extra large.
Yeah.
Is the most commonly sold.
and I'm like, every time they send us smalls, I'm like, why? Nobody wears small.
Nobody wears.
I'm like, my fucking 8-year-old daughter can barely even wear a small. Oh, but yeah, scheduling and apparel are like my two like arch nemeses in the retail world.
I used to hate scheduling.
Scheduling is the worst because I'm the kind of guy I want to make everybody happy, and that's just
Right.
not
It's not
it's
possible.
not even possible. It's nowhere near possible. So I have somebody that does the schedule for me, and thank you very much, Joy.
When I started doing the schedule back in the day, it was strictly a pain in my ass, and I had like a lot of problems with it because I kept on like, man, what about next Wednesday?
Yeah.
And it's like a week away. I'm like, how are we going to get through that? Look
Yep.
at these two. I got these two people.
And then the moment
only.
you're like, wow, I can actually take the day off. 3 people call out sick.
Oh,
and you're
man,
like,
so many times. We've done so much not to
and I'm just
avoid
like
this.
that nice guy. I'm like, okay, just let's just deal with it, and I'll cover their shifts when I need, when I have to, and it's the retail world in a tourist town. It's hard to find people that are for us. We can't hire anybody that doesn't have one of these
Right.
badge.
The badge.
So that kind of limits us in terms of who we're even able to hire.
Right.
And so in an already smaller pool to work with in, a metropolitan area, I've got even further restrictions to deal with. And that's something that will never change for us, and it's just, like the casinos, you have to have a badge to work in the casinos as well. And
Right, but then there's like way more money to be made up there.
absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
bartenders, they make tips, right?
Yeah,
People do tip them.
they do tips, and like I said, it's a typical retail establishment,
Right.
But, the fringe benefits of working in a marijuana, retail establishment versus, let's say, the Gap. People coming in buying weed, and and there are people that come in that are, have legitimate, ailments
Problem,
or
yeah.
just, whatever, and when you actually provide them with a product that helps somebody in a position like that, it makes you feel really good,
Right.
to be able to help somebody. And when they come back and they're like, I really liked that. I've been trying so many things that didn't help, and
Right.
this one thing that you recommended really helped, and I want more of it. Like, that's a great feeling.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? Because
What's your most interesting? I would say non like severe medical interesting story like that.
so, we actually have. There was this lady. Oh my lord. My first experience with her, she had pulled in. She was, had driven up from Denver from a doctor's appointment, and she was already having some sort of panic attack of some sort. She was at our ATM machine, and things weren't working out for whatever reason with her transaction at the ATM, and she was in hysterics. And so I walked out there, and I said, "How can I help you?" And she was basically, long story short, she was a person in just an extreme amount of pain that the doctors were not able. That basically,
Besides being on
6-7 doctors
perks all the
later,
time.
6-7 doctors later, she had no diagnosis for this pain that she was experiencing, and she was at this point just going crazy from the pain. To be
Right.
honest,
I did that.
And she was looking for a very specific product that she had before that helped her. And we had the product, but and she was having a hard time at the ATM, and she's just freaking out. And I brought her inside because our ATM's kind of like in the little foyer area
Right.
or whatever. Brought her inside, got her a cup of water. We have water there because we are at fucking 7,500 feet.
Right.
People coming from Florida, and I sat her down and I said, what is it I can do to help you? And it took quite a while to get her to calm down. And eventually it was just like, it got to the point where I had the product she really wanted. She couldn't get the money out of the ATM. And, we're basically a cash only business. This was back in the Kindline
Right.
days before we ever had a bank account. And
That's some sketchy business practice. If you don't even have a bank
Right.
account, what do you do with that? I'm
dude,
just gonna put
that's a
this
whole
in
nother
my
conversation. I'll tell you about the time I drove down to the State Department with like 30 grand in cash to pay sales tax. But anyways, that's a whole nother. But so, she's like, I've got a checkbook. And I was basically in the position where like, we did not accept checks. But I took this lady's fucking check because she was having a horrible time.
Right.
She became a very loyal customer. And granted, every time she came in, she was in a fucking shit ton of pain, and she was not very easy to deal with. But she was always very, very appreciative, even though she wasn't in the best of moods
Right.
because of how much pain she was in. And dude, let's face it, when you're in a lot of fucking pain, you're not you. A good mood is not even on the table.
Yeah.
For you to have, And so I get that. I sympathize with that.
Do you remember what her pain was coming from, or
Like I said, it was multiple doctors couldn't figure it out. Type
Yeah,
of thing.
but she didn't tell you,
It
like-
was from what it sounded like. It was like some kind of nerve pain that she was experiencing because it was full body.
So-
it wasn't fibro. It wasn't
Yeah.
the normal things.
full body?
And she just was dysfunctional, basically. Like,
Right.
and she said she
So
couldn't
it's like
sleep.
full spinal.
Yeah, she had. It sounded.
you can have full
It sounded
body-
more muscular than bone
Right.
related. But the product that she was looking for was basically to help her sleep because she just couldn't. She
Right.
restless, couldn't just get rest.
Yeah.
Basically, and
I did well.
but
Maybe not
she-
as bad as this woman, but that was the first time in a long time I ever dealt with that much pain.
Yeah.
I've just recently dealt with that much pain where I couldn't sleep.
Yeah,
It was like 4 weeks of no sleep.
Yeah.
2 to 3 hours maybe. And then
Yeah,
how to like
and
just
that's the thing
function
is
as an adult
you can't
with 2 to
function.
3 hours of sleep.
can't.
Try not snapping at someone.
And on top
it's
of that,
impossible.
this lady, and the part of the difficult aspect of her being the customer at the dispensary was she was getting relief from this product, but she was extremely anti-marijuana. She
Really?
hated the stuff. She was embarrassed every time she came in to make the purchase, even though
like a
she knew that she needed this.
Catholic girl at a porn shop. It's like, oh man, I shouldn't be here, but I need to. I need it. But I can't have porn.
Perfect analogy. I love it. But no, she would come in and she would, on occasion, make pretty condescending comments to us.
Aww.
But then she's leaving and she's like, "Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you so." Really, But at the end of the day, like I knew when she left, like she was enjoying the experience she got from the product that she was seeking out.
So
regardless
full disclosure.
of her. Her concept of the cultural aspects of it. Like, I didn't give a fuck about that. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. That shit doesn't faze me anymore.
No, and it
Because
shouldn't.
we get like these groups of tourists that'll come in and, half of them are like, fuck yeah, I'm ready to buy everything
this
here.
This is like Amsterdam.
And then the other half are like, when are you going to hurry up? Are you going to hurry up? Like this, I don't agree with any of this. And they're like waiting in the lobby, for husband to buy his weed.
You don't have Airbnbs in town? They always find weed.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's
sure
always leftovers because they always buy too much.
What's funny is I always make the joke like, oh, if you can't finish it, drop it off in my mailbox. Hey, guess what? We don't have mailboxes in Idaho Springs. Damn it. I'm about to just build one just for that.
Yeah, just for that. You're like, right there. No, you should have one right up front. You should have
just drop it in.
It's like the Santa Claus. Like a green one that's like the Santa Claus, Letters of Santa Claus one that's out in front of the post office.
That's funny.
Returns only.
What I sometimes like when I'm in the right mood and those people come in, they're like, I just want to look at it. I'm not going to buy it. I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm going to make you buy some fucking weed.
This lollipop.
And most of the time it works. Hey, you could just rub it on your skin. You don't have to smoke it.
Right.
They're like, wait, what?
Well, I used to smoke, and I actually partake. Man, I don't actually remember the last time I smoked. I don't smoke too much anymore. And really, I used to enjoy like high CBD stuff.
Yeah.
And just for the cognitive benefits, and it actually helped my
absolutely.
It helped my anxiety a lot, which I didn't realize.
I can definitely do that.
Also, didn't realize I had anxiety. So I was just like, why am I so much calmer? Like, this is much easier. And I used to smoke at work. Like,
that's how I feel on Facebook sometimes. I'm like, that motherfucker needs some CBD weed.
Yeah, CBD was like, it was a really, for me, for a long time, it was like, it helped me with a lot of my, just day-to-day issues.
So I'm a big advocate of using CBD for mood regulation. Not versus pain relief, but just that's kind of one of the lesser talked about. It's probably a better
reason
phrase.
To use it.
There's
symptoms.
There's a benefit to so with the CBD to THC, it's all about ratios,
right?
And the hemp CBD stuff is great and all, but it's more or less it's a nutritional supplement in my opinion. When you start adding THC to the equation, it creates what you call the the entourage effect, where it's the whole is worth more than the sum of its parts, right? But it's really more than that. So when you get like
wait, rewind. What do you mean by that? Because I'll be honest with you, all my real high THC weed smoking, I don't remember very well.
That's fair enough. So there are numerous cannabinoids existing in marijuana, depending on the strain. When you start to combine and you get a product, the final product has multiple cannabinoids and a content of multiple cannabinoids. Right. They start working in conjunction with each other to create an effect that's a little bit stronger than you
individual
get from
use.
individual.
So they stack.
So it's like that saying of the where the sum is worth more, or the whole is worth more than the sum of its parts. And when you get like, for example, a 1-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC, where it's equal amounts, that's where it's more or less it's a mood regulator more or less than a pain regulator, and you're still feeling some of those psychoactive properties at that ratio, but just enough to make it fun.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? and you're not really getting high off of it per
Oh,
se.
man, you need to bring weed next time.
Right? Well, I didn't know. I didn't know.
I didn't know either. And I'm like, I never thought about this.
I got a backpack right outside, but whatever.
Well, the test would be is like, can I handle myself off weed anymore? Like, I haven't smoked weed in such a long time, but like with my past weed experiences, it's always
let's
been
do
like,
this again.
It's always I got crushed by it.
It'll be a weed smoking experiment on how far off the beaten path can we go after we've smoked.
Right? We're gonna just start watching videos. Like, are you still using your mic? I'm like, no.
I don't even know what's going on. That'll be the next podcast.
That actually
I'm down.
sounds like
I'm
fun.
down.
I'm interested. I'm always interested. I've actually thought recently. So, like I said, I always when I found the right strain or whatever I thought it was the right strain, I could continuously use it.
That is a
periodically.
thing.
Yeah,
that is a thing.
Periodically through the day, I just walk around with a 1E.
Yeah.
It was perfect. Like I loved it.
You know,
I never got too stoned. I never shared it. It wasn't for other people.
It's
and
like
I never joined other people's bowls.
microdosing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all and that's like the rage all now. With all these psychedelics and stuff, people were talking about microdosing, and honestly, it's legit. It's
right? Mood enhancing.
I mean, what do you want to take some shit that was made in a fucking laboratory,
right.
that's killing people left and right, or do you want to just smoke a little weed, and now, granted, not everybody responds well to marijuana. I understand that. I do understand that.
I've heard horror stories.
It's not for everybody.
I had an employee who he had missed work because he took an edible.
I always tell people just put on like a 3-hour long movie like Lord of the Rings or something, and if at the end of the movie you're still really high, put on another movie.
Well, I've heard this somewhere along the grapevine that someone else you can get completely fucked up like for a day.
It just depends on the physiologies,
right?
Of the person, and that's, and the fat content, because
right.
if you eat something with a lot of fat content when you're eating edibles and stuff like that, it's gonna hit your body absorbs the majority of the medicine. If you eat a bunch of edibles on an empty stomach, your body's not gonna absorb all that. You're just gonna process some of it. Huh. And so, there's a lot of misconceptions in the world of cannabis, but in general, some people can have really bad experiences. I mean, I'm not going to deny that, you know, and that's why we're really, where the regulated market comes into play versus, I mean, I can't tell you anybody that's ever had an edible marijuana experience prior to the regulated industry is going to have the exact same story. Holy fucking shit. It knocked me the fuck out. That is the exact same story from everybody that's ever eaten an edible prior to the regulated market, right? I don't know. I've never heard a different story other than that.
Right.
Because people don't know how to regulate dosing when they're making shit like that at home, right?
You're like, half a cookie.
Yeah.
Like, the cookie was so good. I'll just have
You ate how many of those?
Cookie.
You were only supposed to eat one. You ate how many? And now, with things being so regulated and, very strictly regulated, you don't have those kind of experiences. You have much more positive experiences that people are having.
Right.
And a lot of people that were very anti-marijuana before. And that's kind of cool, to be able to share that with some of these people that are like, you know what, this is really fucking helping me.
Right.
And, my doctor's been giving me shit for 20 years, different fucking medications for this thing.
Well, yeah.
Nothing's helping. This is helping, And look, we're not doctors. We're not there to give medical advice.
Right.
We just relay information and experiences that we've been told.
Common experiences, common, like, oh, so you had this, like, so, okay, this has helped him very well. And
yeah, and we can tell people.
One of the better things about that stuff, like, I can't imagine. So I take a lot of supplements. I take a lot of different stuff. I take kratom. I microdose when I have my days off.
Right.
I do all kinds of shit. Like, I find it very liberating. And then I take a bunch of shit that I don't even know. I know what it's supposed to do, and it's really about long term.
Yeah.
But sometimes I take shit and I'm just like, there's no way of telling. I'm like, this
Who
is
knows?
probably 2% better over like 10 years.
Right.
Like 2% still 2%, but at the same time.
And at the same time, this is kind of this makes me think of something that is a subject that comes up quite often, and I try to analyze the concept of it, but just like, is this shit really doing anything for you? Like, when it comes to supplements, vitamins, and it's like, the reality of the situation is that it takes several weeks
Yeah.
of constant,
It's daily
of
use.
consistency,
Yeah.
to really notice results from anything like that.
Right.
And with
You don't get to take it
the human
part of the
nature
year.
of the general American is like, I don't even have enough fucking
Right.
attention. I don't have enough attention span to even like complete that task.
Right. I got a little old man
You know?
pill jars.
Yeah,
just so I do. Like a
Like-
few of them that people don't even think about. It's like fish oil, omega 3s.
yeah. Mhm.
I take the kratom. The
You know,
kratom's
I
like
take a
mood-
multivitamin.
yeah.
I don't know what the fuck it's
The
doing, but
kratom's more like a nootropic and a
so
mood enhancer.
So I heard you talk a little bit about the kratom with the James Farrell, and I didn't know that there was a weight loss aspect to kratom.
I believe it curbs the appetite.
No, because I looked it up after I listened to your podcast, and yeah, it's legit. And I was like, no, I just thought it was for people that were trying to get off of heroin.
Right. There's tons of multi-use. Like people have found different. I find it so like I fast daily. When I hit that moment, like in the middle of the day, where I'm like starting to drag, and like I'm thinking, maybe I'm thinking about food, maybe I'm not thinking about food, but it's like hitting that moment where I could like I just need to push forward. I'll take one, and I'm good for the next 3 hours, 4 hours, and I'll eat after that.
That's interesting. So intermittent fasting is what you're talking about, fasting daily?
Yeah.
So I've been trying to do that for several weeks, and I have a question about that in terms of what you just said. Because I actually take a blood pressure pill every day. And it's one of the things I'm trying. People see me walking around town like, "Why are you walking?" I'm like, "Because I'm trying to fucking get off this goddamn blood pressure med."
Right.
But and that's something I take at 7:15 every morning. Because if I don't take it at like a similar time every morning, it kind of deregulates my blood pressure. But something I haven't really been able to find in my research of the fasting situation is, you can drink, coffee, tea, and water and stuff, but it doesn't say anything about like, vitamins and pills and things like that.
There
medication.
are certain pills and I would say some supplements that carry a calorie content.
Interesting.
I'm going to say there's a lot of them that don't. So there's a lot of mushroom-based ones, like the lion's mane stuff. Like there's
like herbal supplements.
Yeah, herbal
Okay.
supplements. A lot of that stuff is
But like pharmaceutical.
It's basically tea in a little capsule.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. It's not. It's 0 calorie. There's nothing in it. Fish oil, tons.
Yeah.
Most
tons of-
pharmaceuticals don't. They're just suggested to use with food.
I see.
Thus the problem with pharmaceuticals
see, yeah.
and fasting. And like I would never tell someone like don't take what your doctor's prescribing you. But if you're trying to lower your blood pressure,
Yeah.
I would
And
suggest
it's a pretty low dose
Yeah.
blood pressure med that I'm on. So and I've never had a problem taking it on an empty stomach, but it's one of those things that I've started to think about now that I've been doing this daily fasting thing,
Right.
which is sometimes successful.
How long are you like here's a question, how long are you stretching it to and
So-
what is your experience so far?
So far, honestly, 12 to 8 is kind of like my goal window of when I am allowed to eat, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. I've been pretty good for the most part. The problem for me is this. The beer. I mean, I'm going to be drinking beer after 8 o'clock probably. Interesting story about that, though. I was, throughout my research.
Talking about beer, there's some more in that fridge if you want to reach in there.
One back here.
Nice.
So when I was doing research on, what are you allowed to eat and drink when you're fasting? And I was like, beer. Okay. Well, so there's, 17th century monks that were drinking beer during a fasting time because it's like liquid bread, they called it.
So the trick of beer is do it in your window.
Right.
And the trick of fasting is
I'm outside of my window right now.
Yeah. The trick of fasting is, do you mind if I have that one?
It's all you, brother.
The trick of fasting is to make your window smaller.
Yeah.
So I've
been doing pretty good.
I've been doing it for many.
Like
maybe,
today, I didn't
maybe
eat
2
until like
years.
2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And, so I'm like, okay, well, having a beer at 9 o'clock isn't that bad.
Well, here, so you push that 2 range and you stay out till 10.
Yeah.
So don't eat till 2 next.
Yeah.
Every time you push your night into your fasting window, move your other window closer
That's
to that.
kind of what I've been trying to do, and it's worked out pretty good so far.
Right.
And what I've noticed so far in terms of real quick, first of all, so the beer while fasting, the reason why it's approved for monks to do that. Interesting, very, very interesting story I learned while doing research. So in order for it to have been approved for them to drink while fasting, it has to not be pleasurable, right?
So it's really disgusting beer.
So in order for them to get approval to drink beer during fasting, they had to send some of this beer to the powers that be. I don't know whatever. I'm not a religious person.
Right.
And this is like 16th, 17th century. They sent a barrel of this beer overseas to the people that approve things that you're allowed to consume during fasting. In transit, this beer spoiled. So when they consumed it at that point, they're like, "Yeah, this is disgusting. Go ahead and drink it all you want." Of course, the beer that they were told that they could drink was not spoiled.
Right. This is some fresh
So it's
stuff.
kind of it's pretty kind of a funny story, But anyways, so back to my experience. So far, it's been a pretty positive experience. I think that the main thing for me is that when it comes to it's not so much what you eat; it's when you eat. And the thing about the fasting is that once you've stopped eating for a certain amount of hours, your body is just burning fat, regardless of what's in there.
It's 12.
And
That's
something like that.
The golden number is
And you
12
could kind of,
hours.
and I will say after the first week, you can actually kind of tell,
Right.
Did
your energy went up, right? Cognitive,
yeah, and
function
and
went
it
up.
took not very long for me to really manage my energy levels throughout the first several hours of a day before I was allowed to start eating. It didn't take as long as I thought it was gonna take to get used to. But I will say that if I keep my window, or if I don't start eating right at the beginning of my window, my stomach's like, dude,
Right.
you need to fucking recognize.
So you wanted some tricks to push.
Sure.
So you want to push.
Absolutely.
So the ideal amount is 18 hours,
Yeah.
16 when you're practicing.
Okay. That's pretty much what I started out at 17
22
hours.
to 23 if you really want some pretty amazing effects from it.
Eat for 3
And
hours
then,
a day,
like,
22
the
hours a day.
yeah,
I don't know about that.
What? You're just going up. No, you're going the wrong way.
Oh,
That's just
that's depressing.
eating. That's just eating all the time. No, yeah. So
It helps that I don't work in a restaurant.
right? No, I'm around food all day. So when I start eating,
I did the master cleanse
Yeah.
years ago when I lived in Nashville, and I worked at a pizzeria, and that was fucking god awful. I was just
like, this is so-
I was probably 6 or 7 days in, and I snuck a garlic roll in the walk-in cooler, and it hurt me
Just
so
fucked
bad.
you up?
It hurt me so bad.
yeah, that's the one thing with fasting too. If you eat the wrong thing first,
Oh my lord!
fuck up your world. Like
Yeah,
today,
that
I
was
ate
a bad
almonds.
experience. Don't fast for 7 days and then eat a garlic roll. Words of wisdom from Jason Siegel. In the walk-in cooler.
I gotta go home.
But dude, I'm like sitting there watching people eat beautiful pizza like all day. I'm just
Oh yeah,
like, oh my god,
smelling
this
it
is,
would ruin me.
Oh,
Pizza,
dude.
fresh bread
Pizza.
smell.
I've worked in a
fucks
lot of
me up.
pizzerias in my life, but pizza is still kind of one of my it's my soft spot.
Right.
I will still eat pizza till I die. Pizza and bacon.
I feel like it's pizza and tacos for me.
Tacos are awesome too.
Man, tacos.
I've had some really shitty tacos though before.
Yeah, you got to go out of your way for good tacos. Like go down to Denver, go down to Federal. Like go to
There
that
was
one
there
place
was
that don't speak very much
there was a
English.
little taco truck in Nashville on Nolansville Road that was fucking killer, where they threw the cheese directly on the grill before they put it on the taco. And like I've never seen anybody else do that. And it was it had the cheese would have a little bit of brown on it, and I'm like, this is fucking awesome.
This is genius.
This is awesome. Now I want a
Oh, fuck.
taco.
All right, so back to the right. That does sound good.
It's outside of my window, damn it.
It's hard to close your window. So if you can get it short enough, you will see the max amount of benefits. The
Yeah.
trick to getting it shorter is there's just small ways to curb your appetite. So coffee
Yeah.
is a really easy one.
So coffee is the one thing that
Black coffee.
and actually
tea.
that kind of part of the reason why I'm on blood pressure meds is because I was getting these crazy headaches, and it's basically just inflammation, And when I don't drink coffee, it's even worse.
Really?
Because I get the inflammation plus the caffeine withdrawal. And that's bad
Oh.
news. And excuse me, I get these cluster headaches. The bad news. And but my doctor gave me so I got a new doctor. The doctor that put me on blood pressure meds is resigning or retiring or whatever the fuck. I don't know. They make too much money for me to care anyway.
The
But
last that
The new doctor is interested in weaning me off the blood pressure meds and just kind of getting me into doing some neck stretches before I go to bed, which is a lot of headache pressure points kind of rest in your neck and shoulders and whatnot, and they've actually been helping quite a bit. And it's just kind of doing this kind of stuff,
right?
And
Just so you're not tensing the neck
tennis
when you go to bed.
ball, rubbing a tennis ball around in certain spots, and doing some chest expansions in the doorway, and that's actually helped out quite a bit, and it's curbed my headaches quite a bit. She did give me a muscle relaxer to take as needed at night, and I think I've taken 2, and I don't like how that stuff makes me feel.
Right.
I wake up real groggy, and I don't like that. So I'm just kind of trying to keep up with it. I've reduced a lot of my alcohol intake overall. I only drink maybe a couple nights a week really anymore, and that's helped out quite a bit. Obviously,
You said a couple weeks, right? So
about 3 or 4 weeks now. I've been
did you lose any weight?
So I lost about 11 pounds overall so far, and I've also just been kind of doing some, a few push-ups and stuff in the morning, and some of it's, building back in some muscle that I've lost over the years.
Right.
So I've kind of evened out on the weight loss right now because I feel like I'm kind of converting some of that into muscle just overall. But then I'm, walking about a couple miles a day between, going back and forth to work, come home for lunch, and it's, things like that, and trying to limit it to just the 2 meals,
right.
I've got a sweet tooth. That's kind of one
there's
of my
flexibility in it, and like I was getting at, it's like you need to stay the course and shorten the window. You will see better and better results.
Absolutely.
Like I closed the window down to 2 hours. Hour to 2 hours. I lost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Of just I would say I wasn't ever I was
probably a lot of water weight.
I was a little overweight or
Yeah.
whatever you would say. Like I wasn't
I'm technically obese according to the American Medical Association or whatever the fuck
Well,
it says.
I did it completely on accident. So
I'm like, dude,
that
I'm
was the other
6'3",
thing.
like fuck off.
I was a little depressed and I wasn't eating,
That's not good.
but I was drinking and eating really late at night. Plus, I was still going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So when I lost all the weight, it was very confusing to everyone. Was like, "What the fuck happened to you?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And I was hitting the gym with even more energy.
Yeah.
Than I had before.
Absolutely.
So-
The energy levels have definitely increased over the last couple weeks. Just overall, I can specifically remember some instances before where if I forgot to eat breakfast one morning, and breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. I will eat bacon and eggs all day fucking long. But in those instances where I go to work at like 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, and just kind of start rolling with it and forget.
Right.
I would start to really feel that, and when I say feel that, like my blood sugar was not right. And I don't feel that anymore when I,
Right.
So
there you go. Like,
so
that's
I
already
feel
a
like my
huge
body's
benefit from it.
already adjusted to it.
Yeah.
I think it's just more of a mental thing at this point.
The best analogy I ever heard about fasting was like literally you were carrying around granola bars.
Yeah, pretty
Like
much.
you need to use this energy and you need to find a way to use it
Yeah.
more quickly.
Yeah,
And fasting
absolutely.
is the only way to do it. The other best analogy is like when you start fasting and you start doing those morning stuff, it's like, you can plate everything you would start your day with, people would like smoothies, everything like that,
Right.
into a pan. And then you can put your butter would be equal your fat into another pan.
Yeah.
And your body just will not get to that butter
Yeah.
if it has food in it. Like there's just no way.
Yeah.
Like immediately
I
it
love
changes.
butter.
It immediately changes. And trick, yeah, right. Oh, then you should. You're gonna hate me, and I don't preach much about keto because I think it's a.
I
think it's a
carbs
lifestyle.
are necessary.
I think it's a lifestyle choice, and I also think it's a.
I could live off of
it's
bacon
hard.
all day long.
It's bacon, avocado, olive oil. If you look at the
But at the same
pyramid
time,
yeah.
man, I'd love to eat an orange roll every once in a while. Fucking scoop of ice cream, like, you know.
I don't know. And I often when I tell people about this and I like or suggest it, it's like it's really about what you want. Like
Absolutely. And, you know, and that's the thing. It's like
if you can make an obtainable goal eating those 3 things,
it's really about what makes you happy,
Right.
At the end of the fucking day.
But
And, you know,
your
if
blood
your body
pressure being
chemistry is counteracting your happiness, that's an issue you got to
Yeah.
deal with, you know. But at the end of the day, if, you know, I think the biggest problem in our society in terms of, you know, the whole dieting world is there's too much focus on you need to eat this specific thing versus when do you eat? Because, you know, the thing that, you know, was really obvious to me in terms of this whole, like, you know, the fad of intermittent fasting is like, yeah, you're not going to see a company trying to capitalize on intermittent fasting because what is it? You're not eating. You're not consuming
You're not
shit.
spending money.
You're not spending. Yeah, exactly. And so
This is not
well,
helpful
duh.
for
No one, you know, yeah, nobody's going to fucking promote that shit, you know, like that wants to make money. And that's like, you know, it's the concept
glorious thing
of
about it.
commercialism,
Yeah.
of dieting, you know, and it's like, look, why don't you just focus on not buying into this fucking pyramid scheme where you're like, I'm selling this fucking supplement and I'm trying to talk other people into it and I'm telling them it's not a pyramid scheme, but it's a fucking pyramid scheme, you know, and it's just, you know, that shit fucking drives me crazy. And I've had,
Do you want another one of these?
sure, why not?
No,
You know,
yeah, no.
I've
It's
had a
irritating.
few people try to talk me into, you know,
Like,
oh,
here's
this
a
is
meal plan.
when they start the conversation with it's not a pyramid scheme, it's a fucking pyramid scheme. I don't care what you say.
Exactly. I was like, oh, I don't make money after you make money. I was like, that's a pyramid scheme.
Dieting just needs to be a mental goal and not so much a physical goal. And I think that's where people
Right. It's a way of life.
Yeah, you
It's,
know-
if
and people
if you
focus
look
too
at
much
diet,
on what
diet's a bad word.
it is a bad word. I think, and I think that some people get caught up too much in the how am I going to look in a bikini after I'm done
Right.
with this diet? That's not what it's about. It's just about fucking feeling good.
Right. Healthy
And
mindset.
just in general,
yeah.
it's not about feeling good in one fucking article of clothing. It's just about having a healthy lifestyle
Right.
to where you don't wake up feeling groggy. You don't, you know, have digestive fucking problems, you know, and some people are allergic to shit and they don't even know it. And
And they eat it
you know,
daily.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's really just having, you know, I think that, you know, let's face it, not very many people are able to afford mental health,
Right.
You know, and diet is one of the key factors in how your fucking brain functions
Right.
throughout the day, you know, and
That's the key factor of Alzheimer's.
absolutely
Is one of the biggest factors is bad diet. It's
bad. Cheers to
cheers. as we
bad
do.
diets. We're
Bad
gonna wash
diets.
that conversation down with some tequila.
No, so the brain fog, or you could say it's like the explanation was there's little branches that are basically cobwebs in your brain,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that builds up and builds up. So when you
Yeah.
get older, you start losing function of your brain. What fasting does, and past 18 hours, starts a thing called autophagy, and that autophagy
Huh.
clears out those
Cobwebs.
cobwebs.
Interesting. That's,
It doesn't only work on that; it works on organs, works on fat, works
Interesting.
on dead cells, tumors.
yeah, there's a lot of
So
medical
cancerous cells.
medical benefits to fasting.
So,
Even just fasting for 24 hours once. in a while.
right? It's quarterly. Some people say that's the most someone needs to live just like a pretty like healthy lifestyle for their body to like catch up.
Yeah.
You know,
Of course, you know, in Idaho Springs, you'll get that guy that's like, I didn't eat for 3 days. I'm like, yeah, well, methamphetamines don't count.
Yeah. Like you have nice muscle tone, but you're also shaking like a leaf.
You've got junkie sores, dude. Fuck off.
And your teeth are falling out.
Fasting doesn't work when you're on meth. Anyways.
Fasting doesn't work. You're fasting because you have no teeth left. Like that's not the same thing, man.
I can't eat
anything
I can't
whole.
chew anything. Oh my god.
I don't get whole things anymore.
Oh, that's awesome. Anyways. Next subject.
What is the next subject?
I have no fucking clue.
We've just been
how
chatting.
How far we've been chatting? This is great. I love it.
Oh man, we've been chatting for almost an hour.
Jesus Christ. We haven't even talked about city council or nothing.
Okay, let's talk about city council. Okay, just to
Oh my goodness.
polish it off. No, this is what happened last time. It's like we were like,
I love it.
I was trying to
Love
plan. Honestly tried to plan out what I was going to talk to with the last guest, and we immediately went down a tangent,
A rabbit hole.
Yeah, just a rabbit
love
hole
rabbit
that
holes.
wasn't even close to the same subject. And I had to like, it was like a hard segue back. I was like, and we should talk about this instead.
Well, we've talked about, you know, boring conversations and, you know,
And we talked
fasting
about
and
fasting,
marijuana.
weed. Yeah, the
It's-
weed
it's
one was
been
very
good. And we
interesting.
did, you know, like I was thinking like at work today, I'm like, should I plan this? I'm like, just fucking roll it off the goddamn cuff of your
That's the
sleeve,
one thing
dude.
about conversations. Conversations you
Love
can't
it.
plan out.
You can't.
Like you
plan
can't
shit.
tell me that you're like, oh, this is what I'm going to say to her.
Right.
This is what I'm going to say to them.
There's no
And-
teleprompter here.
Yeah, and then once you get there, tell me that's what you actually say. Like,
Right.
I've planned so many things to say, and like, it usually comes out of gibberish.
I had one rule when I came into this building was, I don't give a fuck.
Right?
I'm gonna
It's a
say
good
what
place.
I want.
Yeah, like, and I want to like.
That was kind of getting back to what we were saying before we started this. Like, you know, from my experience being on the Chamber of Commerce and being on City Council, president of the Chamber of Commerce.
I knew you were something high rolling.
When I was done with that, with I just wanted to fucking be real. You know, like I wanted to tell people how it really fucking felt about my experience at your fucking restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce. I can't really write a review on a restaurant. You know, like I can't do that. Like that's bad.
Well, how many reviews have you actually written?
I think I wrote one for for one of the hotels in town. I had several family members stay there, and all of them had really horrible experiences. And it's kind of one of those things where now it's like
Paradise.
No, this is before Paradise was even a name. But I've got to, without naming a lot of names, I have the situation where
maybe
my mother-in-law is like afraid of all of the lodging facilities in town. So now my couch is the only acceptable place for her.
I would say the only that's pretty shitty.
She's
want a
pretty.
bed, though, man.
I think I got pretty lucky in the mother-in-law department. She's pretty awesome. But
like the mother-in-law
but at
suite
the same time,
couch.
I mean, we have a fucking 900 square foot house, and we got 2 kids and 2 pit bulls. Like,
fair.
Know what I mean? Like, there's just not a lot of space. But
I like
I really wanted to
hotels.
I wanted to be like, and when there's been a couple times where I've voiced an opinion about a particular play, not just a particular experience, but I never name businesses of Idaho Springs when I do that. I think that's distasteful when you're the president of the goddamn motherfucking Chamber of Commerce. So when that was one of the things, like when I was like, I saw the light at the end of the elected official tunnel. I was like, man, I can't wait to fucking just tell people how I really fucking feel, you know? Because look, I'm just a realist, you know, like I understand a lot of like the things that people bitch about and things, but then there's also the side of me that I'm like, really? You're bitching about this when you got all this other shit going on in the world?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
come on, for example. Being in the Chamber of Commerce. What, like, all right, so things that are bothering me right now, and I'm going to just voice my opinion about a few things. It's bothering me how slowly we are working on affordable housing.
It's
the
interesting you say that
pitfalls-
because some people say we're working too quickly on it,
motherfuckers.
right? Some people say the city council is trying to push things a little too fast.
The Argo development in its non-development. I'm like, oh, we're going to do all this stuff. And like, I haven't seen anything.
So it's a long, winding road for the Argo development,
Right?
but
And it feels like they're going to put up housing that is $2 million housing before.
What I will say about the Argo development, I will say a couple of things. The people that are behind the Argo development are, in my opinion, the right people to be behind something like that.
You're making me feel better. About
Dana Crawford, for one, she is. I don't know if you're familiar with Union Station downtown in the Crawford Hotel. She's the one that
the Union
designed
Station
those.
is amazing. Right
Union
now.
Station is.
I went to go pee in
fucking
there.
Baller. Like that place is awesome.
Post baseball game, I was like, this is really nice all of a sudden.
Oh,
like,
I took my daughter there before the Rockies game once, and I mean it's a cool spot. But so the Dana Crawford, she's real estate. She's really heavy into historical redevelopment.
Nice.
She's probably one of the most prominent historical developers in the country, if I had to guess.
Really?
I don't know a whole lot. But she's very well known across the country in terms of her experience with restoring historic properties.
And making them functional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So she's part of the Argo team now, and obviously there, everybody knows Mary Jane Lovely and Bob Boland, and I know a lot of people have their own opinions about them, but at the same time, here's the thing: is those people they're, in my opinion, some of the most passionate people in terms of the historical value of Idaho Springs.
Right.
Let's face it, let's be real. Some people are just jealous of others that are successful. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation.
I would agree.
And some people don't take well to that. And fair enough, whatever. I understand that. But I think that their intentions are really good.
Good.
I think that their intentions are well researched, well educated. I think that what they're trying to do is very, very much in line with historical value, historical preservation. They're not. What they want to do is build a bunch of stuff, but they don't want to take away from the original, landmark there,
Right.
the actual building,
So-
the mill itself. So a lot of people think they're just going to build all this big ass, Here's
Like
the
a
thing:
strip
is
mall.
the zoning regulations and the design regulations, like what developers are allowed to do in the city of Idaho Springs, is very fucking strict.
Right.
It is extremely strict. And people can't just come in and build whatever the fuck they want. And that's a really huge misconception that I wish people understood, is that, there's a lot of working parts to something like a development. But at the end of the day, regardless of whether you agree with the concept or the idea, the reality is that if they get approved to go forward with a development, which they haven't even been approved yet. Like it's still so.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of legal steps in the way, but once they get approved for an actual development, they have to bring all of the final development plan still has to get approved.
So
and it has to adhere to certain criteria. And if it doesn't adhere to that criteria, then it doesn't get approved.
Right. And like it would be like anything else, is like checks and balances in any system.
Absolutely. And the criteria that's been built is pretty fucking strict.
Right.
I mean,
because
seriously.
we're a small town, it's a steep hill, and
Yeah.
we're just going to build a road on it. Like it's no problem.
And my
Out of all things that are going to be built on this mountain, like, and why I brought that up is that it feels like yes, they are the right people for something like that. Their ongoing project
I really do believe
is
that.
an amazing project. But what bothers me is that I feel like, and you said that the people are saying that it's going too fast, that we are getting to. Like
Well,
it comes back to affordable housing for
the
me.
thing
It's like
about
they
that-
had mentioned it in their plans, but it was
Yeah.
at the bottom of their plans.
So the thing about the general concept of some of the citizens that feel like city council is just moving too fast with things, I 100% understand why they think that. The reality is that the current administration is dealing, in my opinion, is dealing with a lot of things that just been swept under the rug over the years.
Right.
For example,
Historical society doing
yeah,
dealings and shit.
and it's, and I could go on for days about examples, but at the end of the day,
Just give me one big example.
like the water rates going up, because we need a new wastewater facility, and from what I understand,
Feels like fucking Blackhawk should be paying for that shit.
I don't really know, but here's the thing: is we got a lot of fucking grant money to pay for that shit, and that's the reality of that situation. There was grant money, there were loans that have been placed, and there was people that developments need to pay for that. Well, they actually have to do that, but we have to have the facility for them to even fucking function,
Right.
And without any future, like if you take what exists in our real estate inventory today, and you never expand from that, we still need to expand that wastewater treatment facility, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's and
And if you
from
have
what
all
I
the
understand,
grants, why
within the
wouldn't
last
you just
couple of
do it?
weeks, there's been some news about hot springs discharging into the wastewater facility. I'm not sure what's going on with all of that quite yet. And that could change the whole fucking game. I have no fucking clue. Like I said, because I stepped down at the end of June, and this happened like a couple of weeks ago. That there was some news about the hot springs discharging into the sewer line. I don't really know. Like I said, I don't fucking know. I've been hanging out with my family since I resigned from the city council, but. At the end of the day, what the reality is that there are very, like I said, very strict guidelines for things that are, legally allowed. And, a lot of people like to make assumptions, and, fair enough. I make assumptions, in everyday life. But I feel like the city council has done their due diligence in terms of creating a set of guidelines that are congruent with what Idaho Springs' character should be and should remain, in terms of it staying somewhat of a, kind of a sleepy tourist town, if that's even a fucking thing.
That sounds so boring. I
agree. I agree.
The old
but that's what a lot of people really want
to
to hold on to, is this like sleepy.
We're Rafter fucking county.
But here's my thing: is like, look, okay. Regardless of whether or not our current city council is dealing with a lot of shit that's been swept under the rug, the reality is that no matter whether you're in fucking Idaho Springs or you're in a large metropolis, change is inevitable,
right?
No matter what the fucking factors are.
Man, I used to say this about
inevitable.
I used to say this about Georgetown all the fucking time. It's like, you guys need us. Like, and I grew up in Georgetown. They would not let development happen to that lakeside.
And you know what?
And now that they're doing it, they're fucking kicking rocks, and they're fucking barely doing it. And I just found out that same guy is now involved in the fucking football field.
And that's a whole nother fucking sack of worms.
And I'm just like, really? This is what we're dealing with? We're dealing with someone that has minimalist sale in this, unless you can make $300,000 to $350,000 homes.
All right, so I'm going to touch base on the whole school football field situation, because I've really kept my mouth shut. I've been purposely keeping my mouth shut on that.
Let loose.
Because, first of all, that's not the city's property to fucking sell. It was never the city's property to sell, first of all, and a lot of people have that misconception. And so, the side note on that is that what really fucking I can't grasp is the concept of so many people that are advocates of property rights that are upset about what might happen at somebody else's property. Example, the football field, right? That's somebody else's property. That's not the city's property. That's the fucking school district's property, right? The city can't tell them what to do. We have guidelines that say if you want to develop that property, these are your guidelines and this is what you're allowed to do. But we can't, from a personal opinion, go to them and say you can't do that. That's the thing that people don't understand. And in terms of when elected officials fucking vote on certain things, we literally are not legally allowed to use our personal opinion to make those decisions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? For example, Come and Go came in to try to upgrade their license from liquor, 3.2 beer to full strength beer, but they're right across the street from Carlson Elementary, right?
Oh, so they can't?
So, we had to approve it because there was no stipulation when they got approved for 3.2 beer that said that they could not eventually get approved for full strength alcohol.
Oh. For some reason, I thought that was a guideline of just being within a
lines.
block or 2 blocks of a school.
And, there was...
you can buy fucking regular beer
the
at Come and
Euro
Go?
Shop, for example. Okay, the Come and Go is kind of a bad example. Euro Shop on Minor Street.
They have a liquor license now.
They have a liquor license now. When they came to apply for the liquor license, we, as a city council, had some information presented to us regarding a DUI that the licensee had previously from, 15 fucking 20 years ago, something like that. And there were a couple of instances there were a couple of pieces of information that for me personally, I felt like I should not approve a liquor license for this person based on my personal belief, but that was not illegal. We couldn't do that legally.
Right.
We can't base decisions like that on personal preferences.
Right.
We have to just base it on facts. And if they have disclosed certain facts and they're not discongruent with what's regulated and what's legally allowed,
right,
then we can't disapprove it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of things that people think that, the city council or just elected in general, elected officials in general.
And you push your weight around like you're... Like if I was in there, like I would do things to benefit smoking yards only.
Right. And that's the thing. And to be quite honest, that's the thing that pisses me off the fucking most is the people that will sit there and just assume that the city council is working under special interests. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? It's goddamn motherfucking Idaho Springs. It's not the fucking White House.
Right.
Special we're not dealing with fucking, Saudi Arabia and other countries.
Henderson Mine. We're making demands.
We're fucking, dude. We make a city council makes fucking pennies on the fucking dollar for what they do. If I was working under special interest as a city council member, you think I'd still be fucking making payments on my fucking surgery from 2.5 years ago? Right. Fuck no. That shit would not be paid for. I'd be rolling around in a fucking Ferrari if I was working for goddamn special fucking interests. You know what I mean?
People's
I walk to fucking work, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody in fucking Idaho Springs is working for special fucking interests, and that shit really I'm like, really, guys, really?
Right.
Just because you're pissed off at Donald Trump, which fair enough, he's a fucking piece of shit, but. Just because you're pissed off at the federal government doesn't mean your local government is following suit.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the shit that really bothered me to the fucking core was when I started, and you had the parking thing, right? Look, every fucking goddamn mountain town in the state of Colorado charges for parking. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I personally have not had a single fucking issue. I've paid maybe $5 in parking fees.
Right.
Since this whole thing started. If you're a fucking resident, you can park in the lots for free, and that's where I always park anyway. The only people that are bitching are the ones that want to park on Minor Street, and it's like a fucking $1.20 an hour. Like, what the fuck, dude? Really? You're bitching about a fucking $1 an hour? You're calling City fucking Hall and threatening to shoot people over a fucking $1.20 a fucking hour? Really, motherfuckers?
Really? Someone did that?
Fuck yeah, somebody fucking did that.
What a bunch of idiots.
Exactly. And that's, it's just like really people, and it's like, come on, it's fucking paid parking. It's not like we fucking took your property like people,
right.
Like other people are claiming the city council is just trying to take everybody's property. Dude, nobody's trying to take anybody's fucking property.
Ooh, here's your property question. What is this entire Elk Lodge property dispute?
I have no fucking clue, actually.
All right,
This is the
let's not
first I've
talk
heard
about
that. That must
just
be
hear
that must be
shit,
some
man.
news.
Man,
That's the thing is people fucking spread rumors.
I don't think
And here's the shit that pisses me off. If somebody will go on Facebook, Idaho Springs community page, and be like, blah, 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 blah. It's 100% incorrect. And somebody else will comment, thank you for providing me with the correct information. And it's like, no, that was 100%
even
incorrect,
close.
motherfucker. That's the shit that really bothers me, you know? And look, I get it. It's a fucking open source,
right?
You know, like, I get it. You know, anybody can say whatever the fuck they want. It's a freedom of speech. You know.
Well, that's why you don't follow Facebook.
Facebook is the fucking devil.
It is. I'd limit my Facebook use.
Honestly,
Fuck that shit.
out of all of the shit that I had dealt with being on city council, I did not think the parking issue would have created the amount of frustration that it created. And when we voted on it, you know, it was like 3 or 4 fucking months of discussions, you know, off and on that we had.
Everyone felt really surprised by it.
And everybody was like, oh, well, that's the thing is people don't fucking pay attention until it affects them.
Right.
And that's another problem with just general society
Well,
is that nobody wants to give a fuck about anything until it affects them personally. And that's just not the way it should go,
right.
in my opinion.
I agree.
I think that if you have empathy for the people around you, you will always watch out for them.
Yeah, yeah.
You will not just watch out for them when it actually affects you fucking personally. You know?
Of course, right.
And it's like, yeah, you know, I think that there are certain aspects of the paid parking program, you know, that are negative aspects, and there are aspects of it that are positive, you know, and who's to say where the balance is right now because we're still halfway through it, you know what I mean? And the thing about it is like me personally as a citizen of Idaho Springs, I have not had any issues with the paid parking program. I downloaded the fucking app on my phone. When my wife and I went to fucking the cidery the other night because our kids are out of town, so we can like actually enjoy a fucking dinner out, which is kind of cool. And you know, and I know we can park in the lots for free, but there was a parking spot open right next to the cidery. I fucking paid the $2.40 or whatever the fuck it was for us to fucking comfortably sit there for 2 hours. So I didn't have to you walk 2 blocks to get to my car. I didn't fucking give a shit about the goddamn $2-something.
Yeah.
Because
because
you pay for convenience, right?
Yeah, right. You say that it's like everyone in this town has never had to pay for a convenience before. I agree with you in the sense
and I understand that, but at the same time,
I agree with you. Hold on, I agree with you. That's like obviously we're not debating. You are simply stating the fact that like it's irritable that people that they don't understand progress. But furthermore,
it's irritable that somebody would threaten to shoot me over a fucking paid parking spot.
Furthermore, the biggest thing like I didn't understand, and like, I'm really glad they conceded to, is like giving everyone in Clear Creek
and that was
like that's a big difference
from my understanding and my experience in this whole thing. That was the hottest topic. Yeah, I'm
coming from out of town. I just want to stop for the same place I go to coffee.
Here's the thing. I was ultimately the one that was like, we really need to just fucking give the goddamn county residents this, you know, because it was creating such a fucking divide that was unnecessary. But the original concept was we are conducting an experiment to collect data. And what do you do when you conduct an experiment to collect data? You control your fucking variables, right? The variable was, where do we draw the fucking line? We had to draw the line somewhere, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that actually is a concept that we have dealt with in the retail aspect quite often with the whole local discount. How do you find the fucking local in the city of Idaho Springs, right? That's a tricky fucking concept, right?
Do you know
they don't have dispensaries in Evergreen, so we consider Evergreen local, right? You know, so there's...
If you say local, we allow it.
Right.
That's it. And I don't even argue with people anymore.
You know, and that's kind of how we've
I've had people from Denver. Like, we're locals. but we live in Denver. I'm like,
Right. So at the dispensary, we just say
Okay.
if you have a Colorado, so at the dispensary, if you have a Colorado ID, you're eligible for our free membership,
Right.
basically, right?
That's good.
But so in regards to the parking situation, with any fucking scientific experiment, you have to control your variables, or otherwise
Yeah,
your
yeah.
data is skewed, right?
right.
And that was the very basic concept that we tried to hold on to with cutting it off at the city limits. It was just an easy line for us to draw, right?
This is for Idaho Springs.
Once we realized that when we drew that line, it created such a divide that it created. Well, we fucking erased that line,
Right.
because it wasn't worth it. You know what I mean?
No, and you had people that
now
lived,
our
like,
data is
barely
going to be a
outside
little
that
bit
line.
skewed, but at the same time, we're not going to damage the overall
project.
integrity of the project. You know what I'm saying? Because in my personal opinion, as a fucking councilman at that time, was, look, we tried to draw a line to basically minimize and control that data,
Right.
that data point, right? But what we started to notice was the people that were that their address says Idaho Springs, but they weren't in Idaho Springs city limits. They were like boycotting Idaho Springs businesses. Well, that alone was also skewing the fucking data. Right? So that was when I spoke up and I said, look,
businesses in town were saying crazy shit.
I was saying, I fucking went to,
Yeah.
a council meeting as a councilman, and I said, look, I understand we're trying to control the data points. And the result of trying to control those data points has basically equaled in the same result that if we didn't control the data points.
Right.
Skewed fucking data.
Yeah. So you're getting something that's like unnatural. You're
Yeah.
losing all kinds of people
Absolutely.
due to this control.
So when we allowed the county residents to sign up for the resident permit, that was a huge stepping stone. But even then, it's still a concept where, it's Clear Creek County. We have a lot of senior citizens that don't have fucking smartphones and things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I thought that was strange.
And that was another concept that we had to really be sensitive to as the city council. And honestly, that was something that, from my personal experience of being president of the Chamber of Commerce, we dealt a lot with how do people get their information.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
And that's really the source. To me, that's the main factor in why people are getting misinformation.
Right.
Is because so many people use so many different ways to get their information, whether it's the newspaper, the internet, fucking their friends at the fucking post office. You know what I mean? Like,
Did you hear?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, like, one person, you put 5 fucking people in a line and you give the first person a sentence and they repeat it down the line. By the time it gets to that first person, that 5th person, it's going to be a completely different sentence.
Right.
And
That's
side
tricky,
note,
man.
that's kind of how I feel about the Bible being translated over 1,000 years. But
Let's end
anyways.
on that note. Woo! Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Andrew.
That was a casual hour and almost hour and a half. There was probably a slip or like
We're
10
going to have to do
minutes
this
there.
again for sure.
That was fun, man.
That was fun.
Thank
That was
you.
Good times.
Thanks for
I'm
coming
sweating
in.
over here. That's good.
Why
That's
are you
good.
sweating? You get really intense there at the end. There's a cancel thing's pretty.
I don't know.
Yeah. I am. You're making me less excited about joining the city council.
No, I will say, no, keep it rolling. I want to say one thing about
Go
city
ahead.
council. A couple of things. I will say, so a lot of people, a couple of people have given me a little bit of shit. Oh, you quit. Look, I got appointed 6 months before I got elected. I spent 4 years on fucking city council, okay? I did my first term. There are some very personal reasons why I stepped down. Part of that is right before I stepped down, I took my kids out to visit some family. That family was an 11-year-old niece and a 13-year-old nephew who just lost their father to brain cancer
It's rough.
at 42 years old.
Sorry.
That really hit me fucking hard in terms of I need to be there for my children who are 6 and 8 years old right now. Another aspect of me stepping down from city council really had to do with just me trying to take better care of myself, to be quite honest. Because if you want to take better care of your family, guess what? You got to fucking take better care of yourself. And you've got to switch your priorities from taking care of your community to taking care of your fucking family. And that's the hard reality that I had to swallow. Because I really wanted to be that father that showed my children how important what it was to be a part of the community. But the end result of that was I wasn't there for my fucking children.
Right.
And that's the sad reality.
Few nights a week, you're gone for a few hours.
Yeah. And I felt I put in my time, but the overall reality of me being on city council as the guy who worked at the fucking pot store, like, that's fucking funny. First of all, it was honestly the greatest learning experience of my life. I'm 39 years old, and I've learned more about myself and communicating with people than I could have ever fucking fathomed in a college course or anything like that. And that's the aspect of being on city council that I'll always hold in my pocket.
All right, you resold me on it.
And I mean, honestly, like
that's what I want out of it.
It was a really fucking-tastic experience. At the end, towards the end of it is when people started to get engaged. And granted, I felt a lot of animosity towards why people were so upset about the parking issue, but I was really at the same time thankful that something piqued their fucking interest.
Right.
You know what I mean? So many fucking meetings were zero attendance.
Yeah.
Zero. When I got on council, prior to that, I was the only motherfucker that was in attendance for months. And that's why I got on council. I was like, dude, nobody fucking seems to be interested.
Right.
And I ran unopposed.
Yeah, now everyone interested.
I ran fucking unopposed.
All right, so next time we talk, here's the thing. We need to talk about is the blight thing.
Yes.
And then, why is everyone interested all of a sudden? There's like 6 people.
There's
6 people signed up.
Nobody's been legally designated as a blighted property. Not one property in this whole fucking town has been legally designated as a blighted property. There's only been research done to see if any properties meet the legal criteria of blighted properties.
And a blighted property is a property that is being projected worth value.
So every state has every state has different criteria.
Regardless, is it what is ours?
So in the state of Colorado, there are ways, and this is actually pretty new in our state legislation, that you can create something like an urban renewal district without condemnation and eminent domain, basically without taking people's property.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't get that concept, right? And I understand that because the word blight, it's literally been...
It sounds bad.
It sounds horrible, and there have been multiple efforts to try to change that word at the federal level.
What word would you use?
I have no fucking clue, honestly. But
urban renewal. That's what.
But here's the thing: is there in the state of Colorado, there's a way to create an urban renewal district that allows for funding for people to fix up their own properties versus it being an incentive for developers to come in and buy property. And that's the concept that most people have of blight and urban renewal, is that this is just an incentive for developers to come in and open up shop and do whatever the fuck they want. But here's the reality, is that developers can't just come in and do whatever the fuck they want, first of all. Second of all is the blight study itself that has been conducted in the city of Idaho Springs has no legal bearing at all. It's literally... We hired a private contractor. The city hired a contractor to just evaluate the criteria that exists at the state level, and
You
gave
get a lot of people concerned about
and
that
gave
shit.
city council recommendations on how to move forward.
Right?
There is no urban renewal district yet. It's possible that one could be formed, but what happens when an urban renewal district is formed is the board of that urban renewal district is consisting of elected officials and citizens as well.
Okay.
So it's not just like the mayor of Idaho Springs gets to say whatever. Like I'm the fucking controller of all the things that happen, which is what some people think. Whatever. That's just I get it. Whatever. The mayor, I think he's awesome. I think he does a fucking great job.
thought he had some
To be
amazing
quite
things.
honest, I think he does a fucking great job.
He's gotten all those roads done. He's gotten
Dude, he's gotten
you know,
a lot of shit done.
Yeah.
And, I know a lot of people
Don't hate.
And this kind of goes back to the whole Mary Jane Lovely and the Argo thing is some people are just pissed off at others' success.
Right.
In general. And
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
that. I get that. It's just jealousy. It's fucking human nature.
Now, we used to get
You know?
a little bit of that same discourse about like us at smoking yards, and for a second there, it was just about employees, but
Yeah.
and then you get this, this array of BS. Like I
Yeah.
had some person I was dating. He's like, "Oh, you're only with him because he's rich." I was like, "Dude, I'm not fucking rich.
Right.
I work really hard."
Dude,
To
nobody in Idaho
accommodate-
Springs is
Yeah.
rich.
If I was the sole owner of that restaurant, yes.
It's like, yeah, if
I
Mary
would
Jane Lovely
crush.
sold everything she fucking owned, she's probably sitting on some pretty penny. But,
Right.
like she's fucking sitting on a lot of property that she's got to fucking manage. And, like,
No,
and she
that's
has a lot of
something,
employees.
You are
you know?
allotted that over time, and like you were able to obtain that over time. You're allowed to fucking.
there
you're allowed
there
to
are some
fucking
people
have
that have worked really fucking hard for what they have. And
sorry.
then there's other people that are just really jealous of that.
Should be something you look up to, not something that you look down on.
You know,
Like some people fucking
thank you.
work super
Thank
fucking
you.
hard. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Like we're trying to acquire as much additional stuff as we can through through our work life and through
Yeah.
our business, because we know the value, how valuable that will be in the future, and what we can do with that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Like, and that's
Well, and
the
that's,
biggest thing is
you
like making
know-
that turnover and making that into a reality is what these people have already done, and then
Yeah.
you have the town kind of. They'll look down on them and they'll just like, oh, I can't, but they did that in their own self-interest. Like, yeah, they did, but they're also looking at
Dude.
the entire town, and they're successfully doing
Nobody
it.
in this town
They're-
is looking
yeah,
beyond their own just economic sustainability.
Exactly.
You know what I
And
mean?
can't
And that's the
do-
thing, is like-
economic stability is everyone.
Yeah.
Like the fact, like that would be like someone's like, oh, would you be mad if someone opened another barbecue place in town? Like I wouldn't be,
Right.
because one, you couldn't hold a candle to ours.
Yeah.
Two,
I agree.
I'm all for.
I came from Nashville.
I am all for
You
competition.
guys got some fucking killer goddamn
Like,
barbecue.
I am all for competition. Let's fucking go.
That's the thing. So, because that's been presented.
Like you said,
There's only 3 dispensaries allowed in the city of Idaho Springs, which even if I didn't work for one, I would understand that concept, because even if you allowed more, I don't think it's going to bring more tax revenue into the city. I think it's just going to spread it out a little bit more, right?
I'm confused on where that
But,
tax
like,
money is going to.
So that's a whole nother conversation.
We should talk about that next time.
A lot of it's going to the state. Only the same amount of tax revenue that comes from smoking yards that goes to the city is the same amount of tax revenue that
All
comes
right.
from.
Where does
but
it go
there's
back in?
There's a couple of separate funds.
That was like a dark fund that can't be used.
So there's a
correctly.
10% special sales tax on every purchase of recreational marijuana that funds state regulators and basically just the oversight. So for them to be able to say, hey, you are making a product that is stronger than legally accepted and we're going to fine you. That's the kind of thing that the extra 10% sales tax goes to.
Ah.
It goes to make sure that here's the thing with
Stay within
recreational marijuana,
regulation.
the number one important factor for recreational marijuana, regardless of whether you're the business or the regulator, is public safety.
Yeah.
Right.
So no, it's
And that's the same thing with food regulations. You know,
It's
you got
about
the health department
keeping-
comes in and
yeah.
makes sure that you are, you know, your employees are washing their hands, they're
building
doing
codes,
their thing.
anything. You got
Absolutely.
codes
So
to
we
keep
have
people safe.
a state marijuana enforcement division that comes in and checks on
Yeah.
certain things, right? And to me, the amount of money that you pay in sales tax towards that product is well worth what you're getting out of that. Because, I mean, I've fucking been buying weed on the black market for umpteen years before I was in the regulated industry. You never knew what the fuck you were getting.
Right? It was a
And you're waiting
roll
for
the
some
dice.
fucking kid in goddamn Walmart parking lot hoping the
It wasn't
fucking
even roll of the
feds
dice.
aren't watching
It was
you.
like fucking Dungeon and Dragons. Roll
Right.
the dice. You're like, I have no fucking idea.
I have
and
no
you'll,
fucking
And then you'll
clue.
send me a shitty bag and I'm like, this is what we were waiting for?
I paid $60 for this
And like,
bullshit.
well, it's a little bit better than swag. Like, I fucking don't believe you. Do you see any seeds in it? Did
I
you
waited
just
3
take-
days for you to call me back to fucking give me this
Yeah?
shit.
Did you just
really?
take the seeds out? Like, seriously? You trying to
And that's
sell me
the-
something a
and
little?
that's the thing about
Pretendies.
the-
You remember that shit?
Yeah.
Pretendies.
Oh,
Pretendikind. Well, whatever.
Pretend to kind.
Like,
I haven't even heard that phrase
that is
in probably
ridiculous.
fucking 12 years. That's
Oh.
awesome.
It's pretend to kind. I'm like, that just looks like swag to me without seeds.
It was the shit that looked good, smelled good, tasted good, but did not get you high.
That was that high CBD shit. You're like, why the fuck you didn't get high from this? Like, I
But-
smoked a whole joint.
You know, what's interesting is that, you know, yeah, there's a lot of frustrations that we deal with in the regulated industry. But at the end of the day, like, the fact that somebody could come from fucking, you know, South Dakota and walk into a dispensary in the state of Colorado and buy whatever the fuck they want up to an ounce, it's pretty fucking awesome.
Right?
I mean, even though I've become desensitized to that idea over the years because I work there and I'm like the manager, it's still a pretty fucking awesome concept when you really think about it. When we opened up on January 1st, 2014, one of 8 dispensaries in the entire state of Colorado, the very first day of fucking legal marijuana sales, I showed up at about 6:45 a.m. to open up the store, and there was a gentleman pushing, 70 years old, sitting in his lawn chair in fucking 2 inches of snow. And he says, I've been waiting 50 fucking years for this day. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a fucking cool moment in my life. You know what I
That's
mean?
awesome.
Like, I just was there to open the fucking door, Like, and that was, like, really cool for me to have that moment with this guy. Like, I've been waiting 50 fucking years to come in here and buy weed from you.
That's awesome.
Like, that was fucking cool.
That is really cool.
And he's literally in his fucking lawn chair in our parking lot in like 2 inches of fucking snow. And I'm like, this is fucking awesome, And that whole day was just like insanity.
Right.
Fucking sanity. I will never.
Did you guys sell out everything?
We sold $20,000 worth of fucking product
Jesus Christ.
out of that 200 fucking square foot goddamn retail
We're
facility.
gonna end on this. The beauty. Fuck, that's insane.
It was fucking insanity.
The beauty of legalizing marijuana is that it forced illegal marijuana dealers to get with the times.
Well, it didn't really
And-
force them. It just gave them an opportunity. In my
Exactly.
opinion.
But like, all right, so this is one of the biggest things that I believe and I heard, and I was listening to a lot of people about it, and that like before Prohibition, like it was gangster ridden during Prohibition, and then they legalized it, and everything gets straight. Everything got a little straighter after marijuana legalization. It's getting straighter throughout a lot of different states.
Yeah.
I am pro, like, United States wide, and why federal government won't get on the board, because you can deal with a lot less fucking gang members or gang dealings with that in so many states if you just let it go.
This goes back to the fucking
Let's
Civil
just-
War.
let's
Let
just let
the
it go.
fucking states do what they
I
fucking
agree.
want.
All right. That's it. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Drew.